today. So I just want to start by saying thank you. Thank you for choosing to spend these next 30 minutes with us, with me and with each other, to hear a bit of a story, to hear a really amazing story, and to consider this invitation to invest in young people, invest in creativity, invest locally. Impact investing is to invest in others and invest in yourself. It's part of the beauty of it all. What makes me say this is this story we're about to share with you. So if we could switch to the slides, and we'll take you through this journey that we're on. Excellent. So here we go. So what is Sketch? Here we are at Artscape Young Place. That's 180 Shaw Street, just at Queen and Shaw in the West End. Beautiful area that we're in, with a beautiful big park close by. But the whole building is a cultural center of artists individually and other organizations within this building. Next slide. Sketch itself is an arts initiative that is working, collaborating, supporting, and learning with a community of young culture makers between the ages of 16 to 29. After 25 years of deep learning, Sketch is an organization that is positioned extremely well to change how we engage and invest in our communities. It is through the power of the arts that we see the way through to bringing authentic voice and leadership for future decision makers, policy makers, and systems change. Next slide. Sketch's creative spaces are just under 9,000 square feet. We have culinary, music recording, music workshops, opportunities for entrepreneurship. We have ceramics, painting, and next slide. It goes on, we have more, we have screen printing, we have a performance space, we have a movement studio with dance, industrial arts, visual arts, and digital photography. In fact, anything that we can get our hands on and resource, Sketch is willing to do. We have a real broad spectrum of mediums that we offer, and offer in excellence. So the next question is on the next slide. What is the impact that Sketch has? We're talking about impact investing, but what's our impact in the community? So according to our 2019 annual report, we had over 1,000 youth. That's 1,000 individual youth coming through our spaces at Artscape Young Place. We had 517 of those were new in 2019. We had just under 8,000 total visits. So people coming back and building their capacity by being present in our space and accessing the resources that we have. It's a huge impact, and we have more growing every year. The greater impact, of course, or the real demonstration of the impact, is in the storytelling. And people love to hear the stories. So we're going to share a quick story of a young woman named Rosa. If you could go to the next slide, you get to see and meet Rosa. Rosa Mindreau is phenomenal. She's one of many Sketch artists and leaders in our community. Rosa started as actually as a surfer in Peru and a competitive surfer. And she's definitely part of the punk rock scene, continues to be holding on to that life, but is an incredible individual. She came to Sketch and started to learn and build her skills around screen printing. Today, Rosa has her own business. She runs her own screen printing business. She hires other young youth, young artists to work for her now in this business. She is an arts facilitator and facilitates workshops at Sketch. So she's really, truly a community developer. And Rosa is a huge ambassador now with Sketch. She cannot say enough about how much the space and the resources and access to it allowed her to be who she was, build her capacity and her skills, and develop a way towards what she loves to do and does so well, and supports not only herself, but the others in her, many others in her community. So Rosa is a huge leader in our community. And she's just one of so many examples of people who have accessed our space over the 25 years. So Sketch has a lot of exciting and what we would deem as success stories. But what are the challenges that we have right now? So if you could go to the next slide. So major challenges for Sketch along the way. Certainly, we cannot deny that COVID has been a challenge, but for us, COVID has also been an opportunity. We have been navigating the challenge of COVID in terms of accessing our space, as it is in a public building, and we have to follow public health guidelines. But in that, it has become even clearer to us of how essential it is. The second issue is the skyrocketing real estate that jeopardizes Sketch accessible central location. So that area, as I said, is growing, developing with Liberty Village close by. It's a really growing area. And so the cost of being there, leasing or buying has been growing and will continue to grow. So these are two very specific challenges. With COVID, I would say that, and with both of these issues, is that Sketch is a place that where there are very few places of access for marginalized youth, that not only provides resources, materials, tools, mentorship, but also provides a welcoming, caring community of friends and collaborators and incredible innovators. And this is where change begins, when you're able to provide this kind of space. And right now, certainly, we are limited by some of the needs around public health, but it has actually made it that much clearer to us again that the need for this space, the need to secure it, is become absolutely critical to us. Next slide. So about a year ago, we were approached by Artscape. Artscape owns the entire building, and the building is structured as a condo. So you can buy individual units. So there are people, individuals, artists, and a couple of the organizations that have purchased their spaces. So they approached us and said, would you be interested in purchasing your space? If you know Sketch and you know our development, we have grown every year, keep growing, developing, and grounding ourselves in the work that we're doing and the impact. So we really know that what we do works, and we really love the space that we're in now. It works tremendously for us. It opens up so much more collaboration and connection to artists and the community. So when we were approached with this opportunity, we thought we really love to do this. We have really no idea. We're at ground zero. How do we begin to look at how we can make this work for us? So we did a feasibility, some feasibility research. And part of what we acknowledged and saw in this feasibility research is that if we looked at staying in this space, that with leasing costs, that the costs of those leasing guaranteed are going to go up every year. In fact, they were in our lease agreement would go up 4.5% every year guaranteed. With that, and then a new lease happening, there could be another increase. So it's just a steady increase in the cost of our leasing over the years versus mortgaging and buying the space to be able to, if we could figure out how to buy the space, that the mortgage becomes much more sustainable. And on top of that, you also earn the asset of owning the space. And you have a lot more flexibility and therefore some more sustainability within the organization. So you can see the gap here between the two. If you could go to the next slide, it shows that if we don't purchase the space, or if we cannot figure out how to do that, that's fine, except that in 5 years, we would have to move and relocate. Well, this is our third space that we've moved into and the one we've invested the most in. So we know that we could do it, but it would be absolutely disruptive, especially where we're at right now and the kind of impact and the way we're able to engage with people in the community. If we had to move, we would lose the infrastructure of the investments that we've already put into this building in these particular spaces. We would disrupt programs for more than a year. We know what that means. We would lose close proximity to many supportive services and partnerships that we've built in the GTA. So the question really became, well, if we can figure out how to do this, how do we do it? And the decision is, do we want to service a lease or do we want to service a mortgage in the long run? And what does that mean? It means that if we can figure out how to service a mortgage, the gap that you start to see between the lease and the mortgage servicing becomes an opportunity to put more money back into programming, as opposed to towards having to raise more and more money to cover the cost of a lease. And I know people have heard this story many times, how people just get out, you know, the cost is too high for them to manage the spaces. So we're trying to mitigate that. Next slide. So the decision was, we're going to buy our spaces. What does that mean? It means there's 2 studio units that we are purchasing. The first one is on the 2nd floor. That is just over 1,300 square feet. You can see the windows there. It's our admin hub. We also run several programs out of that space. And then the second space, which is the larger studio units, are in the lower level. And it's just over 7,000 square feet of studio space. So those are the 2 units that we are buying. Next slide. So the question is, how do you manage to do this? Well, the total cost of this project is $4 million in order to purchase it and raise the bonds and be able to manage the bonds over time. So we knew we had to aim to raise $4 million. The way that we saw the capacity, our ability to be able to financially structure this was to break it out into a mortgage, to be able to figure out what would we be able to get in an approved mortgage. And we were able to secure a $1.1 million mortgage. That $1.1 million mortgage, once we have everything else raised and paid off, will actually cost us less than what we're paying in the lease right now. So over time, again, you're building much more sustainability along with the asset. In the meantime, we have to finance this. So we know that we have to raise 1.52 in capital fundraising. And then we also, in addition to that, wanted to look at the opportunity of community bonds. And we have done the financial modeling and crunching, and we can sell 1.4 million in community bonds. Next slide. So community bonds, how do community bonds work? So the first thing I want to say is just, what is a community bond? Some of you may have some experience and knowledge of it. I'm just going to share this for those who are fairly new to it. A community bond is an interest-bearing loan that a nonprofit or charity like ourselves, we can issue to people in our community and support networks. Essentially, you buy the bond and you earn a set interest rate each year, which we pay to you each December in this case, and develop so that we can use the capital to purchase our space. And then we repay you the entire bond at the end of its term. And we'll go through what the bond series looks like. But essentially, you as an individual would purchase a community bond from Sketch, which is going to be managed by Tapestry, and we'll share a bit about that. 2 bonds are sold to finance our Sketch Studio space purchasing, and 3, then the investor receives the interest annually, and the original investment is returned at the end of the year. So you can choose to reinvest at the end. We would approach everyone who does decide to buy a bond. We would approach you about 9 months out and say, would you like to reinvest, or would you like to cash in your bond? That is totally up to you. Next slide. So people often ask, what is the security behind the Sketch bonds? We are backed by real estate, an incredible piece of property in an incredible area. And so the real estate means that we are not correlated to financial markets. We're not at the risk of markets going up and down, except potentially, as we know, real estate markets. But essentially, it's a really secure. Everybody understands that real estate is a really secure way of investing. The interest paid annually to bond purchasers comes from revenue Sketch generates through its assets. So We have done a 5-year plan, business plan that you would receive that explains to you what our intentions are and how to raise the money over the next 5 to 7 years. And be able to rent our space out publicly. We do paid workshops, and we have a lot more strategies in place that we are developing in order to make sure that we can meet the demands of the bonds over years. And as I said, we did some real deep and due diligence on our financials, so we can demonstrate how we are going to meet that demand. Next slide. So as we said, the bonds are managed and administered by outside of Sketch. So Sketch did not have to develop or put resources into figuring out how to do the back end. We, in fact, are working with our friends at Tapestry Community Capital. They've been an incredible resource to us, and they are partnering strongly with us in this process. They process the bond transactions. And if you're interested in checking them out, you should, to see that they have been very successful with bond campaigns. They have backed the bonds at SolarShare and the Center for Social Innovation. Those are really strong examples of the work that they've done and continue to do with them. So you can visit tapestrycapital.ca to read about other success stories that they have. So they're working really alongside with us and bringing that expertise. Impact bonds are an increasingly popular resource for nonprofits to raise capital to fund major projects or purchases. As a not-for-profit, it is rare at our level that you're able to even have an opportunity to purchase a space that does build towards a sustainability. And impact bonds is a vehicle that is going to allow, hopefully, more organizations like Sketch to do this. But we are leading the way, as per usual, I say, doing something a little different. Next slide. So let's get into the bonds. Sketch Community Bonds, we have actually a menu, we call it, of 4 bonds, a series of 4 bonds. The first 2 that I wanted to talk about are the A bond and the D bond. The D bond is a lower minimum investment of $500 with a 3-year term. So for 3 years, you give us $500 minimum, and you get an interest return of 3% on each of those bonds. You can buy multiple bonds, obviously, so you can buy more than one. And you would get the annual principal repaid at maturity in 3 years. We call that our community bond because that's really what we see as an opportunity for those people who support Sketch, who want to be part of this project because they've been supporting Sketch for so long or really love the work that we do, but may not have the resources the same as others. We wanted to be able to provide them with a bond that was accessible to them. So we call it the D bond, or community bond. The A bond is a bit unusual. It's new to Canada. It's the very first one in Canada. And we've called it the giving bond. And the reason it's called the giving bond is this. It's a minimum investment of $5,000. So you give us a capital of $5,000 for 5 years at a great interest rate of 4%. And as part of that, then we would send you your interest payment annually. You could donate the interest back to Sketch as a donation, and in return, you would receive a charitable receipt for that donation. So it's the bond that keeps on giving. And then at the end of the 5 years, you still receive your initial principal paid back at the end of the 5 years. So you could also opt into perhaps at the end of the 5 years, donating part of that or donating the whole thing or a portion of it, whichever, but you are guaranteed to get the principal repaid back at maturity. But during the 5 years, you would donate back the 4% interest payment as a donation and receive a charitable receipt for your taxes. So it just gives, and everybody can win. We're really excited about that one. We really hope that people pick up on it and that it's an opportunity to also be able to offer an alternative within the bonds series. You can also buy different bonds. You could buy some A bonds and you could buy some D bonds. Then in addition to this, we have 2 other bonds in this series, B and C. Try to keep it simple, A to D. Bond series B is a minimum investment of $25,000 and for 7 years, and a really great interest return of 4.5%. For the C bond, $10,000, 5 years, and 4%. Again, both these are the same. You would give us the initial capital. We would pay you annually on the interest payments, and then we would return the capital to you at the end of the maturity of the bond. These bonds were developed more for people who might have more available to them to be able to provide capital to us during that period of time. It's also made for businesses, corporations, or foundations. So for instance, in our C bond series, we've actually sold over $325,000 worth of the C bonds already. So higher net or people who have higher access to capital can buy multiple bonds over in that way. But you can also buy a B bond and a D bond. So the one thing we thought of was that the D bond is also possible that people might consider that as a great gift to somebody and say, I'm going to buy a bond this year as a holiday gift. That's also an option. So here you have a great menu of bonds, lots of different opportunities to be engaged and become a bond purchaser at Sketch. Excellent. So what are the steps? What do we need to do in order for you to become a partner with us, an investor at Sketch? There are simply 5 steps. The first one is you would go to see the site, visit sketch.ca, project home/invest, and we're going to put that in the chat for you with the link so that you can access that page. When you go to that page, you will see a red button, and the button says invest in a bond. You simply click on that and it will take you to step 3, which is sign up to download the investor package. It's just a bit lower down on the page after some information, and you just fill that out, you push go, submit, and we will receive it on the back end. Thank you, Emma. Emma's put the link into the chat. The next step 4, is that you will receive an email from us, somebody from our bond team, likely Dale or myself, that will let you or inform you that you now have received the investor package. So there'll be an attachment with the offering statement. It'll have the trust agreement. So we have a trustee who is working for you as a bondholder. So the trustee agreement will be there. And then the 5-year business plan for you to review. And then once you have that package, just go ahead, you've got it. Just go ahead and push the invest button, and up will come step 5, which is your final step. And that is to complete that form. You just need a few bits of information to give us, which includes your bank branch, transit and account numbers, a photo or scan of the voided check, or download of direct deposit from your bank. So this just gives us access to make the payment, receive the payment, and confirm the purchase of your bond, which will be processed in 5 to 10 days. And that's done by Tapestry in the back end. So you will receive confirmation that your bond has been purchased, and you will be done. So it's 5 easy steps. Go to the site, fill it in, you get the email, you got your package, push invest, and then fill out which bond it is that you would like to invest in. And it's as simple as that. So we really want to encourage you to go ahead and purchase your bonds while they're still available, because we are going to be doing this as a real push between now and the end of December. So we encourage you to purchase your bond. But for now, in this moment, we have a few minutes, and we really want to open it up to specific questions that people have so that we know we're answering them as much as possible. And as I said, we are willing to stay back a little bit to answer any questions. I do want to say, just in case people do have to drop off, a couple of things. One is, I just really want to thank you for taking the time to learn more about Project Home, and in that, then you're going to learn more about Sketch. I really, really want to encourage and welcome any conversations you want to have with either myself or Dale Roy. We're happy to connect you with Tapestry as well if there's any questions we can't answer directly. But we want to also you know, ask that you, if you feel really great about this, which I know you will, that you encourage others to check it out as possibility for them as well. So if we could maybe now open it up to Q&A, we'd be happy to take any questions that you have. If there's any you want to put in the chat, or you can come on and we can have you visually now with us and unmute, and we're happy to take questions. See if I've answered everything or if there's any questions that you still have.
Rudy, it's Chris here.
Hi, Chris.
So is the site up and running? Like if I were to turn around after this, I can get on it right now?
Absolutely. Yeah, you just have to click on the link. You can do it now, link into where the chat is. If you go in there, the site will come up and you can begin the process. Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Are there any other questions that people have or thoughts that people want to offer? Or have I been so super clear that everybody's just going to jump on and purchase their bonds? Any other questions? Hi, Chris. I think you're on mute, my friend.
That would be correct.
There we go. Nice to meet you.
Sorry about that. Thanks for the presentation. I was interested to know what happens if you don't fill out the 1.4 million in community bonds. What happens to the finances then?
Yes, thank you for asking that, because I know that's on people's minds. So one thing is that we are monitoring this every day, right? And every week we meet as a committee with Tapestry. So we're always strategizing any concerns we have around that. The option is, and we're also running at the same time the fundraising. So there's a few options. One is if we see a certain bond doing better and we can increase the total bonds that we need to sell is 1.4. So we can shift and strategize around that. Right now, I should tell you, just to give you a bit of a picture, is that we're pretty much close to raising all of the C bonds, for instance. I think D is going like crazy. It is going to be fine. And we're just starting the negotiations around B bonds, which are the larger numbers as well. So while your question is absolutely valid, we are strategizing always week to week to see where we need to shift things to make sure that we do hit that 1.4. If at the end of the day, we don't sell 1.4 million, what it means is that where do we come up with the capital to make up the rest? Is that in fundraising? Is it in potentially having to negotiate more of a financing with the bank? So there's many different strategies. It's not done if we can't sell 1.4 million in bonds. I don't think that's going to happen because we're really, as you can see, passionate and feel really confident. But yeah, it's a very good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Emma, do you have other questions there? Are the bonds TFSA and RRSP eligible? So very good question. I'm going to ask Jen from Tapestry if she could just respond to that for us, for everyone. She'll give you the most accurate answer.
Sure. Hi, everyone. These particular, while they could be RSP and TFSA eligible, Sketch has opted not to go through that process at this point, because likely they will do this bond raise, they will renew the next round of bonds and that sort of thing, but they have one project in mind, which is to purchase this building. We see a lot of organizations do TFSA and RSP eligibility when they're doing subsequent bond raises one after another to do multiple projects. Solar Share, for example, does lots of solar energy projects, etc. Other organizations who do, multiple projects. So Sketch is opted not to go through the process of TFSA RSP eligibility at this time, but it is something that could have been possible for them.
It may be one of those strategies you look at, but again, as we build, but at this point, we think we can sell them given the rate of return and yeah, just what we're having to offer. I think we can sell without going to that. As I think, Sketch is in a very unique position to be able to do this, and we're learning a ton as well. But it's something that I think will open up a lot of opportunities for Sketch to put more funds towards programming in the future to stabilize who we are and make a greater impact in the community, and then also be able to share the experience and learnings with other organizations that could then also benefit from being able to stabilize their own organizations by potentially buying their own spaces. Space is really difficult for not-for-profits, and there has been many limitations, and this is opening up a whole different possibility for us and will for others as well. Are there any other questions? I know it's 2:03, and yep, Chris, thank you.
Is there a cap on each of the series? Is like, say, you know, there's 100,000 of the C series bonds, for example.
Yes, there is, and that because that has to fit into our model, our financial model, so that we know we can cash flow the returns and the interest payments and final capital returns. So we have put a cap on the D bond of 100,000. So there's lots, we're at 30, well, we might be more now actually, but we had initially said 50,000 and we'd already sold 36. So we bumped it. And then, because people are buying, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 of them at a time. And then the C bond is 600,000, and as I said, we only have about 25,000 left in that one. The B bond is 325,000, and the A bond is 400,000. So we kept that one pretty high. Good question. That might adjust, as we said. You know what I was explaining to Chris. It might have to adjust, but that's the structure right now. So I'm happy to stay on for anyone who needs to jump off because you did commit to us for 30 minutes. I really encourage you, please, we're here, we're ready to take calls. I feel like we're on a phone thing, but we really do want to just be able to answer, not just because, well, yes, we want to sell and we want to be very successful this, but both for Sketch and the young people that we really know need this space. We're really committed to making this work. So we are here to prioritize your questions, help you through the process if that's what you need. So please feel free to contact myself, rudy@sketch.ca. Also, my cell number is available since we're not always on site. My cell number is also available at 416-803-5428. Happy to share that with you. And also to connect on the invest@sketch.ca for any questions as well. And Dale will be happy to respond to any questions that you have directly. So thank you again so much. Thanks, Emma. You put the cell number in there so everybody has it. Thank you. And we really look forward to doing this joint investment and making this story a really, really successful one for not just Sketch, but many, many others as well. So really appreciate your time today. We'll be doing this again in November, so you can let people know if they want to be part of the next session. Then we'll let people know. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful holiday. Stay safe, stay well, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you. Hey, Chris.